They say silence is the loudest sound in Buckingham Palace. But in early 2026, that silence didn't just break, it shattered. It started with a whisper out at sea and ended with an explosion that reached the highest hallways of power. Most people think the story of the Sussexes began with a glass of wine and a lucky Instagram follow. But there's a darker, saltier story that has been hiding just below the surface for years. It's a story of yachts, billionaires, and the kind of secrets that elite social circles trade like money. And now, thanks to a series of carefully placed signals from the inside, the fairy tale is being rewritten, from once upon a time to once upon a yacht. This isn't just about a career before the crown, it's about a collision between a duchess who wants to reinvent her future and a royal system that refuses to let the past stay buried. Before the royal titles, before the security team, and long before the global headlines, there was a different Meghan. This was the era of the hustle, where a Hollywood actress didn't just sit around waiting for a phone call. She worked her way into rooms that most people don't even know exist. But the real rooms weren't in Los Angeles. They were floating on the Mediterranean Sea. We're talking about the high-stakes world of elite yachting, where influence flows as freely as the champagne and the guest lists are more exclusive than a state dinner. For years, rumors have swirled about Meghan's presence in these circles. Photos from St. Tropez, Ibiza, and the Amalfi Coast show a woman who was completely at home among the global elite. But in the 2026 world, those photos aren't just old memories. They're being used as evidence. Insiders suggest that these weren't just vacations. They were strategic appearances with a purpose. In these ultra-private circles, beautiful and ambitious women are often brought in to elevate the atmosphere for billionaires and powerful men. It's the world of yacht girls, a term that carries heavy and controversial meaning. While Meghan's team has always maintained she was simply a successful woman enjoying her life, the story being pushed now suggests something far more calculated. The question isn't just whether she was there, but who she was meeting when the cameras weren't looking. Because out there, far from the tabloids, the rules are completely different. Secrets stay locked up tighter than any palace vault until someone decides those secrets are worth more than the silence. And that's the thing about the Mediterranean. The water is clear, but the history is murky. As these 2026 reports come to the surface, they point toward a specific summer when Meghan's social circle began to overlap with the very people. The royal family has spent decades trying to avoid. It wasn't an accident. It was a strategy. But as she would soon find out, the gatekeepers of the Mediterranean have very long memories, and they aren't afraid to use them. But those Mediterranean secrets were just the beginning. The real shock came when the digital world decided to verify what the yachting world already knew. The mystery deepened when a voice from the heart of the financial elite decided to speak up. John Lefevre, the man behind the infamous GS Elevator account, a window into the cutthroat world of Goldman Sachs and global finance, dropped a bombshell that flipped the fairy tale completely upside down. He didn't just hint at rumors. He pointed directly at the digital paper trail. The world was told that Harry and Meghan met on Instagram, a modern-day romance for the digital age. But Lefevre's claim was much sharper than that. According to him, Prince Harry wasn't the first royal she connected with online. Claims came out that Meghan's networking went deep into the Middle East, that she was a frequent companion on trips to France and Dubai, allegedly flown in by Saudi circles who valued discretion and beauty above everything else. Lefevre's words were cutting, calling Harry the dope who tried to turn a global socialite into a housewife. This wasn't just a dig at their relationship. It was an accusation that the version of Meghan the world was sold. The self-made, independent actress was missing an entire Saudi-funded chapter of her life. If these claims have even a grain of truth, it changes the entire context of 2016. It suggests that when Meghan met Harry, she already knew exactly how to navigate the world of princes and power. She wasn't a newcomer to the royal orbit. She was a veteran of the elite social circuit. The sweet Instagram love story starts to look less like a lucky break and more like a closing move in a very long game. And for Harry, the man who burned every bridge to protect the woman he loved, the realization that he might not have been the main character of the story, but rather the prize, is an incredibly bitter pill to swallow. The story shifted from a romance to a recruitment. But as the financial elite started talking, a far more dangerous voice was getting ready to speak from within the royal family itself. In the world of the Windsors, Sarah Ferguson, Fergie, has always been the wild card. She has survived more scandals than most royals have had birthdays. She knows how to play the game because she's been thrown out of it and fought her way back in. So when she casually dropped a line in early 2026 that directly linked Meghan Markle to Prince Andrew's darkest social circles, the world stopped for a moment. Calling Meghan Prince Andrew's first client was not a slip of the tongue, it was a surgical strike. Insiders believe Ferguson is playing a much bigger game than anyone realizes. For years, she watched the Sussexes dominate the public conversation, painting themselves as the only victims of a cold and heartless institution. But Fergie knows that institution better than almost anyone. By linking Meghan to Andrew, the most toxic name in the entire royal world, she effectively destroyed Meghan's claim to the moral high ground. It was a signal to the world. If the Sussexes want to talk about transparency and truth, the palace has its own truths to tell. The timing here is everything. As the 2026 Australia tour narratives were picking up steam, Fergie's revelations served as a massive distraction. Every time the public started asking questions about Prince Andrew's past, a new Meghan secret suddenly hit the headlines. It's a classic royal diversion. Ferguson isn't just going after Meghan for the fun of it. She's protecting the father of her children by making sure the spotlight is too bright for anyone else to stand in. She's signaling that she knows the secrets of the yachting years because she was there. When those social circles overlapped, she's the one holding the receipts, and she's finally ready to trade them for her own family's survival. This wasn't just gossip. This was a declaration of war, and the battlefield was about to get much more crowded. The most chilling part of this 2026 resurgence isn't just the Yacht Girl label. It's the company that label keeps. When you bring up yachting in royal circles, the conversation always turns toward the shadow of Jeffrey Epstein. This is the third rail of royal scandals, the one topic that Buckingham Palace wants buried under 10 feet of concrete. But Sarah Ferguson's comments did the unthinkable. They put Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew in the same sentence. Speculation is now reaching fever pitch about how these two worlds might have crossed paths. During those mysterious summers in the Mediterranean, Meghan was reportedly moving in circles that were uncomfortably close to Andrew's social orbit. We're talking about the same guest lists, the same private islands, and the same fixers who managed the lives of the ultra-wealthy. Some reports suggest that Meghan was already known to Andrew's circle long before she ever met Harry. The implication is devastating. It suggests that the palace didn't just discover Meghan, they might have already had a file on her. If Meghan was part of that same social fabric, it explains why the palace's reaction to her was so intense from day one. It wasn't about her being American or an actress. It was about the circles she ran in. They saw a woman who knew too much about the parts of royal life they desperately wanted to hide. For the quiet elite of London, Meghan wasn't a breath of fresh air. She was a potential leak. And now in 2026, as old photographs and flight logs are being dug up and analyzed by investigators, the Andrew connection is becoming a nuclear option for those who want to see the Sussexes silenced for good. But while the palace calculates its next move, the man caught in the middle is starting to realize the ground is shifting beneath his feet. For Prince Harry, 2026 was supposed to be a year of vindication. With his projects lined up and a high-profile narrative around the Australia tour, he was ready to show the world he had won. But then the yacht rumors didn't just come back, they became the lead story. Sources close to the Duke say he has been completely blindsided. This was not in the script. He spent years telling the world that Meghan was an innocent victim of a ruthless system. But now he's facing a story that suggests she was already a power player in that very system, long before he ever arrived. Behind closed doors in Montecito, the tension is said to be explosive. Harry isn't just angry at the press. He's reportedly questioning the silence coming from the UK. He's asking, who is doing this? But the answer might be closer than he wants to admit. The sense of betrayal he feels isn't just about the yacht girl claims. It's about the fact that no one in the royal family is standing up to deny them. In the royal world, silence is a form of confirmation. As he prepares for his 2026 engagements, friends say he's becoming increasingly restless. The man who walked away from the crown to protect his family is now realizing that you cannot protect someone from a past you don't fully understand. He's trapped between his loyalty to his wife and a growing pile of what-ifs. Was he the one who rescued her? Or was he the one who was recruited? Every time he looks at the headlines, that question gets louder. And as the frustration builds, the cracks in the Sussex foundation are becoming impossible to ignore. But Harry's frustration is exactly what the people steering this chaos wanted, because this was not a random leak. It was a surgical operation. You have to understand how information works in London. It doesn't just leak, it is placed. The stories we're seeing in 2026, the precise timing of Ferguson's comments, the resurfacing of the GS elevator posts, the renewed focus on the yachting years. This is the work of the gatekeepers. These are the quiet elite, the people who trade in information like currency. They are the editors of major newspapers, the high-level fixers, and the old guard courtiers who have watched dynasties rise and fall. According to multiple reports, this narrative was test-run before it ever reached the public. It was whispered in the right ears at dinner parties in Belgravia and passed around among select media figures to see how it would land. They wanted to know, would the yacht girl's story stick? Or would the public dismiss it as more tabloid trash? The results were clear. The public is obsessed. By the time Sarah Ferguson spoke out, the ground had already been prepared. The timing was almost surgical. It hit right when the Sussexes were trying to pivot their brand and rebuild their public image, effectively pulling them right back to the controversies. They've been desperately trying to escape. This is how the London elite fights back. They don't use lawsuits or public statements. They use the truth, or a version of it, to reshape how people see things. They knew that, by connecting Meghan to the yachting world, they could trigger a chain reaction that neither Buckingham Palace nor Montecito could control. They aren't just telling a story. They're steering the ship, and they're steering it directly into a collision between two of the most ambitious women to ever marry into the royal family. This is more than a scandal. It's a rivalry between two women who are masters of the royal narrative. On one side, you have Sarah Ferguson, the survivor, who has nothing left to lose. On the other, you have Meghan Markle, the strategist, who has everything to lose. Insiders are calling this the scorched earth era. Fergie has been pushed to the sidelines for decades, often treated as a joke by the very institution she defended. But watching Meghan command global attention using a very similar outsider, story seems to have sparked a fierce and personal retaliation. Ferguson knows where the bodies are buried, because for a long time, she was one of them. By bringing up the yachting years, she isn't just attacking Meghan's character. She's leveling the playing field. It's her way of saying, if I have to live with my past, so do you. She's ready to burn the whole thing down if it means she gets to be the one holding the matches. This is a battle for legacy. Fergie wants to make sure that when the history books are written, her own scandals look like child's play compared to what's being revealed about the Sussexes. Meghan, meanwhile, is facing a threat she can't easily sue away. You can't sue a signal. You can't sue a whisper. As Ferguson continues dropping hints about revenge and retaliation, the Sussex camp is left playing defense against a ghost. The polished humanitarian image that Meghan has worked so hard to build is being threatened by a narrative that is raw, messy, and deeply damaging. It's a clash of two very different worlds, and in this game, the person with the least to lose usually wins. But as the battle rages on, a new strategy is taking shape from Montecito, a pivot that shows the fight is far from over. As we move deeper into 2026, the geography of this scandal has shifted from the Mediterranean to the Southern Hemisphere. The highly anticipated 2026 Australia tour, which was supposed to be the Sussexes' grand return to the world stage, has instead become a flashpoint for a level of public hostility rarely seen across the Commonwealth. What was planned as a victory lap has turned into a series of no-go zones. Intelligence reports suggest the yacht girl narrative isn't just an online rumor anymore. It's being used as a weapon on the ground. In cities like Sydney and Melbourne, the atmosphere is reportedly turning cold. Protests that once focused on republicanism are now taking a much more personal direction. Signs mentioning the yacht secret and the truth about 2011 have started appearing at planned tour stops, creating a PR nightmare that the Sussex security team is struggling to contain. Insiders claim the Australian public, known for its no-nonsense attitude, is reacting specifically to what they see as hypocrisy. For a couple that has championed the idea of living your truth, the resurfacing of a past that feels carefully edited is causing a massive disconnect. The Australia tour was meant to prove their relevance. Instead, it is proving just how far the reach of a royal shadow can stretch. But the most dangerous battleground of this 2026 war isn't happening in the streets. It's happening in a digital laboratory. In elite tech circles, whispers have emerged about a project codenamed Genetic Freak. While the name sounds like something out of science fiction, the reality is much more grounded, and it represents the future of information warfare. Reports suggest that high-end digital artists and content producers are working on photorealistic digital reconstructions of these alleged yacht scenes with terrifying precision. This isn't your standard, low-quality deepfake. We're talking about 85mm lens simulations, high dynamic range lighting, and nano-level AI rendering that makes these digital recreations nearly impossible to tell apart from real forensic evidence. The goal: flood the internet with reconstructions of the past that are so visually convincing they effectively rewrite history. For Meghan, who has always relied on the technical perfection of her image, this is a nightmare scenario. When the Genetic Freak assets hit the mainstream, the battle won't be about what actually happened. It'll be about what looks true. In 2026, visual evidence is the ultimate judge, and someone is quietly building a digital gallows. As these two worlds, the physical protests in Australia and the digital assets of the Genetic Freak project, begin to come together, Buckingham Palace is facing a choice it can no longer put off. Do they let the Sussexes drown in the rising tide of 2026 scandals? Or do they step in to protect the institution from a mess that is starting to splash onto the crown itself? The latest whispers from the palace corridors suggest that King Charles is being urged to issue a final clarification on the Sussexes' status. This wouldn't be a defense, it would be a severance. By officially distancing the monarchy from the private histories of the Duke and Duchess, the palace would essentially be leaving them to face the yacht girl allegations completely alone. It's a ruthless move, one that reflects a monarchy that has moved past the era of protection and into the era of self-preservation. For Harry and Meghan, the message is clear. The water is rising, and this time, there are no lifeboats. As the dust begins to settle on these 2026 revelations, the mood in Montecito has shifted from shock to survival mode. Meghan Markle is a woman who understands the power of a rebrand. Recognizing that the yacht narrative is gaining too much traction to fight head-on, she is reportedly stepping back from the spotlight to refocus on high-level humanitarian work. It's a classic move. When the personal story gets too hot, you pivot to the global one. But this time, the stakes are much higher. The 2026 Australia tour, once the centerpiece of their strategy, is now being viewed through a completely different lens. Every move is being examined for authenticity. Prince Harry, meanwhile, is set to be in a completely different headspace. He's caught between the woman he loves and a family history that refuses to let him go. Friends describe him as distant and restless. The freedom he searched for in California now feels like a different kind of cage, one built out of rumors and digital ghosts. He's realizing that moving across the ocean didn't break his connection to the palace. It just made the whispers travel further. Inside the palace, the silence remains deafening. They are watching the cracks form, waiting to see if the Sussexes can survive this storm, or if the yacht girl narrative will be the thing that finally breaks the foundation. They aren't stepping in because they don't have to. The gatekeepers have done their job. The story is out there, moving, twisting, and growing. For the royals, it's about survival. For Harry and Meghan, it's about whether love can truly survive the weight of a legacy that was never as clean as it looked on the surface. The final question remains: what truth was worth disrupting everything for, and who is bold enough to reveal what comes next? Because in this world, every headline connects. Every move has a motive, and every secret eventually surfaces. You're watching Royal Report Daily, where the truth is rarely simple and the past is never really gone. Make sure to hit subscribe and turn on those notifications, because the next chapter of this 2026 saga is going to hit even harder. The storm isn't over. It's just getting started.